So if everyone could just spend about a minute, just kind of briefly introduce yourself for those people who haven't had a chance. And I would strongly urge those people in the room who haven't heard the intro speeches, they are posted up on Whova, so you can certainly look at that, but probably as a good setup, even for those people who may have heard that, if everyone could just briefly, out a minute, and we'll start with Scott and move down the realm of candidates.
Okay, thanks, JP. Hi, I'm Scott Fable. I initiated at the University of California, Irvine in California, Southern California, and was a mechanical engineering major then. I now work at Pacific Gas and Electric Company in San Francisco as the manager of our energy efficiency quality control group. And I've volunteered most recently on the executive council and served in various roles within the council, including treasurer is my current role. And I volunteered with Tau Beta Pi for over 20 years, doing roles like district director for District 15, Engineering Futures facilitator, advisor for several chapters, and I look forward to the Q&A.
Thanks, Scott. Tom. Actually, sorry, Ming. I'm doing this. See, they're showing up in the different order on my screen. So not just, yeah. So Ming,
my heart jumped.
Yeah.
Thanks, JP. My name is Ming, and I've been with Tau Beta Pi here over at Connecticut Alpha as an advisor for Yale University. I'm also currently the director for the Connecticut Alumni Association for Tau Beta Pi. And I'm a biomedical engineer. I became a member of TBP and at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. And then from there, I went to Duke University for my PhD, also in the same major. I work for a company called Visage Imaging, and I look into how artificial intelligence can be applied in the software that curates all of the medical images in a hospital healthcare system to augment the abilities of the radiologist, from everything from improving the diagnostic care all the way through triage and assessment of response and outcomes. And so I get to work with engineers and clinicians. I get to work also in the context of being in academia and also in industry. And so for my entire career, a lot of it's been about bridging between multiple groups of people and teams. So that's me.
Thanks, Ming. Tom, you're up next.
Yeah, I was initiated into Tau Beta Pi at Northeastern University, Massachusetts Epsilon, and I graduated there in 1988. And subsequent to that, I was asked to be a district director in District 2 from 1990, and I've served as a district director in Tau Beta Pi since that time. And I'm pretty excited about what we've been able to do with that group. I'm proud of our work there. I've also been involved in a lot of committees of national officers. We do selections of awards, and we look for filling roles, as well as chairing and advising convention committees. I've been involved in that, and then most recently the ICE committee. I've worked on that as we restarted it a few years ago and got that reconstituted and modernized. I professionally am a program manager for our strategic customers, principally focused on Europe. And in that realm, I am constantly working across cultures, across functions between sales, service, engineering, and always trying to bridge, as Ming mentioned, bridging understanding between different backgrounds and different skill sets, as well as cultural differences between peoples. So that's me.
Thanks, Tom. And Joan.
Hi, this is Joan Shaka, and I graduated in 1987 from California Polytechnic State University with a bachelor's in aeronautical engineering. I was president of the California Mu chapter while I was there, and had the great fortune of being part of the Engineering Futures program as it was just getting started in the mid-'80s. I was actually able to help participate in developing some of the content in the early days, and I spent 10 years after that as a Engineering Futures facilitator. And it's because of that that it really has made a difference in my life. And I can't say enough about the Engineering Futures program and what Tau Beta Pi is doing, has done, and continues to do for those in the engineering field. They're really helping bridge the gap. We are really helping bridge the gap for our students in things that they're not learning in the university system. And that's how to really, truly be successful in the work environment. And so that's why I'm such a huge Engineering Futures advocate and look forward to serving on the Executive Council to help continue to move that forward. JP, you're muted.
Oh, sorry, I muted myself on my mic. Thank you. Do have some questions that have been sent in or typed in here. For those people who join later, if you do have questions, please feel free to type them or send them to me. So we'll kind of go through that list and see how things go. We could try to keep responses to about two-ish minutes. To keep everything going along, because obviously 4 times 2, that's 8 minutes. That starts running into, we have an hour, a little bit more than an hour and 15 minutes left here. So the first question, what do you feel is the appropriate balance between student control and alumni control of Tau Beta Pi at the association or at the national level? So we'll start moving down the list in alpha order. So Ming, Tom, Joan, and then Scott. So Ming, your chance.
Okay, all right. So yeah, I think Tau Beta Pi, it's a very unique organization where it is primarily student-led. And I think that speaks a lot to us in that we trust the students about how to take this organization into the future. And so we're giving them a lot of trust, a lot of faith that once they become alumni, that things are moving in a very good trajectory. And so I feel that in its current form and its setup, I think it's wonderful as it is or has been already. And so hence for my response is steady as she goes.
Righty, thanks, Ming. So Tom.
Yeah, I have a really similar thought, and that is that I think that we expect the students to take on the role of tackling the issues that the organization faces at convention and wrestling those and coming up with the guidance that we need and the decisions that we need to kind of move forward through situations that we find ourselves in. I also think that there's always the guidance of how do I say it, more mature voices. I mean, people that have got a little more life experience that are part of those conversations. And I think that in the spirit of, diversity, I think we bring those voices into those conversations and bring those new perspectives into it where a student may not have that perspective and someone can bring that perspective into the conversations while deliberations happen, whether that be at a committee level or in a business meeting as we talk about it. I think it's been working that way. I think that there's always good interchange. I think there's things to be brought into the conversation that are welcome. I've watched it happen many, many times where someone, it brings something that's an experience-based observation to the conversation, and that ends up kind of turning the conversation a little bit and brings some more richness to what ultimately gets decided. And I think that works pretty well, as well as having a senior leadership in the Executive Council that does have that perspective to run an organization of our national scale that has impact as we do across all different college and university settings. So, thanks.
Thanks, Tom. And Joan.
I think that striking the balance between student-led and alumni-led is where the challenge lies. I completely agree that focusing on student-led the way it has been done in the past is is essential, because that's where they're getting those experiences in leadership and running things that make such a huge difference as they enter in their careers. And it's things that I've leaned back on historically as well. I agree with Tom. Having that voice of experience is important. I think the challenge for the alumni, the executive council, is how can we help break things into bite-sized pieces, because our students are busy. So how do we make it bite-sized enough so that they can consume what needs to be consumed? They get the relevant information, they get the insights from those with experience, and yet they can bring the energy and the freshness to the conversation that comes with their position in life today. And that's, I think, what the charge for the executive council needs to be, is how can we make things, package it in a way that the students can consume it quickly with the right level of data and make decisions and turn it back to the executive council so that they can then go forward and implement things. So those are my thoughts. JP?
Great, thanks, Joan. And Scott?
Thanks. At the risk of repeating what folks have said already, I agree. I think that there's tremendous potential within the organization at all levels. I've always thought that the charm and the real attractiveness of this organization is that it's this way for students to start building their professional skills, their leadership skills from day one. The moment that they get involved, there's so many opportunities and ways that they can exercise their potential to be leaders within the organization. And I think we have to keep making those opportunities there and support the effort both at the local collegiate level. But I think the role then the alumni play in that is to help build the bridge. We're trying to grow our base of alumni chapters. We're trying to make inroads and bringing in more alumni to be involved. But I see that as a way of helping alumni be involved with our collegiate chapters, supporting the students, helping them maximize their potential, and and make that a recurring process, that as our student members become alumni, they give back as well. And so I wouldn't want to characterize this as one versus the other, or who has the majority. I think it's actually, the organization really needs to be focused on building as much opportunity for our student members to be leaders, to help them stand up, take initiative and take charge, and help our alumni be involved in that process as well.
Alrighty, thank you very much, Scott. So the next question, I think, is actually a really good follow-on to kind of the conversation we've been having with Tau Beta Pi. So Tau Beta Pi has a long valued tradition of being a student-run organization, a student-led organization. And how can we use that tradition to engage with various engineering colleges nationwide in their efforts to develop leadership skills in students? And so, again, about 2 minutes each, and we'll start with Tom, then Joan, Scott, and Ming.
So I guess my thought on that is, in terms of developing leadership in students, I have strong belief in our Engineering Futures program, that is a valuable and effective program at bringing leadership, not leadership skills, and a little bit of experience with it, not a lot, but I think that combined with our organization providing leadership opportunities, or any student-run campus organization having leadership opportunities there, is something that I think that we can be focusing our communications on our students to go out there and be those leaders for that. I think that student leadership development is one of our very important roles, one that I think speaks a lot to our the beginnings of our organization, and we've developed it well. And I think that really is a place where we can be leaders in leading that message, that you have to become a leader in society, taking what you've learned, no matter really what it is, whether it's engineering or it's accounting or it's, healthcare. So you need to become a leader by taking your new ideas, your fresh technology, and and bringing those ideas into the workplace and learning how to effectively communicate those things. That's an important thing about how progress gets made. So that's I think my thoughts on that topic.
Hey, thanks, Tom. Joan.
I think there was an element in that question about linking into universities, JP, if I recall the question correctly.
Yeah, so basically what the gist of it is, we do have this tradition of being a student-run organization, and how can we leverage that? How can we use that tradition to engage with engineering colleges to help develop leadership skills in students?
Right. So my thoughts there are, we do have the Engineering Futures program, which we're all strong advocates of and have impacted all of our lives. And a lot of us have been facilitators for many years through that program. And because this is a student-led organization and we need that linkage back into the universities, I think the students are the ones that would need to take this message back into the universities and say, hey, engineering program, engineering department, you're not really preparing us for our careers in engineering. We're missing some things. Here are some things we need you to help close some gaps on. And those are things that we're doing in Tau Beta Pi. And there's a whole lot of other things that we're not doing in Tau Beta Pi that are gaps for our students when they first hit the work environment. So because this is a student-led organization, and if influencing our universities to add some structure and some curriculum into the programs to help better prepare our students is where we need to go. Our students need to take the lead on that. As an executive council, we could certainly help, again, package some things for them to take forward. And it could be a kind of a unified approach if it needs to be, but it's student-led. It needs to be driven by our students.
Hey, thanks, Joan. Scott.
So I think that there's examples that we can look at where the local Tau Beta Pi chapter has brought Engineering Futures to the campus and really integrated it within what either it's in the catalog where they have to do a whole weekend of Engineering Futures and students can get credit. There's that direction. But I also think that there's more that we need to do as an organization to build the scaffolding, the steps that where we can lend support to a chapter that might want to seek that level of engagement with their administration. How do they approach the administration and make such a pitch, or how do they reach out and make that statement of we need more, or how do they offer up Engineering Futures to come to their campus and do a better job of getting people to participate. I think that Katie Colbury has done a great job as director of Engineering Futures. She's brought in new curriculum. She's still working on expanding that program. And if I were reelected to the council, one of the things I would try to do is set up a broader initiative of, say, input that can help Katie with what is it that would be helpful for students to take all the great things that are available in Engineering Futures and be able to do a better job of attracting people to attend. We're still hearing in the I sessions, there are some students that think, EF can only be offered to Tau Beta Pi members, which has never been true. It's always been available to all students. And yet there's that misconception that's out there with some chapters. And so I think, as a EC member, I would advocate for us to build a better plan among, how do we get the message out to all the student leaders about what is EF about and what do we, how do we get that better integrated within the campus?
Great, thanks, Scott. And Meng.
Hey, yeah, that's a really wonderful question. I feel that one of the very important points is that we already have a number of programs within Tau Beta Pi that are very successful, that have provided great resources for our collegiate members. And I think to help close that gap in being able to translate those wonderful resources to colleges and universities is, as an EC, I would say one important ingredient is engaging with the school. And so connecting with the advisors at those schools, especially because these are the folks who are there for the longer term, and also because they work directly with the institution itself, whereby they can have a very strong effect upon improvements in the engineering program of those schools. So yeah, I feel that we can have we already have the right ingredients, and it's just about putting it all together into a really nice package where we're able to close that feedback loop, so that we're able to provide students not only with really good information and resources, but we also connect with their faculty advisors so that they're able to see the value that Tau Beta Pi brings, and that can help to influence the design of the curriculum at those engineering universities and colleges. So translation, bridging, bringing the folks in national, the collegiate chapters, alumni chapters, all together with the advisors at the colleges themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Ming. So our next question kind of has two parts. It might be a follow-on to some of what we've been talking about, but what do you feel Tau Beta Pi's greatest strength is as an organization? And on the other side of that, what would you say is Tau Beta Pi's biggest opportunity for improvement? So we want to look at what you think is its greatest strength and what you think is its greatest opportunity for improvement. And we'll start with Joan, then Scott, Ming, and end with Tom this time.
Okay, I think our greatest strength is our ability to provide our students with an opportunity to grow in leadership. It's the recognition of being part of Tau Beta Pi. It does mean a lot in industry, but it's really that leadership. It's really about how do we prepare students to enter the work environment, to be successful, to be a huge contribution out of the gate for the companies that they move into, to be self-sufficient, to really demonstrate what leadership is all about in the field of engineering. I think that's one of the huge strengths that Tau Beta Pi provides, is the students that opportunity to grow in that area. As far as where's the biggest opportunity for we as an organization to grow, I think it's with alumni engagement. And how do we engage our alumni? We've got, I mean, thousands of alumni that really don't have a way to plug in and help out. And that's an untapped resource of knowledge, of experience, of coaching, of mentoring, of helping these students really become effective in the world and in their careers as we move forward. So I think for us, that's our biggest opportunity, is leveraging our alumni talent to really help our students move forward in the world.
Thanks, Joan. Scott.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think our biggest strength is our members, and our greatest opportunity is also our members. We have so many talented individuals that volunteer with Tau Beta Pi, both at the collegiate level and the, those alumni that have different roles within the organization. And yet there are so many more members out there that have, fascinating backgrounds, have, an interest in getting back. And we've seen it with the Unvention that, there's a lot of people that have come and participated that just haven't been able to, or, hadn't kind of taken the time to do so in recent years. And now they've shown an interest. And this is a new approach that we've taken to having our annual gathering. It's not the convention, it's the Unvention. And yet I think this is a tool or a method that we could replicate to expand how many members are participating and supporting. And one of the things that I was able to do when I first joined the council is to reach out and pull together a big group of alumni to kind of think about how we could kickstart our refresh of the website. And we actually were able to get kind of the beginnings of that started. And it didn't take years. We were able to get it done within the span of months, to get to a point where headquarters was able to put in place some changes. And I think that that's the sort of thing that I would like to do, if I'm elected to the council, is to pull together some more initiatives like that, where it's not just drawing from the volunteers that have been already signed up and have a role in the organization, but a lot of new faces that have been looking for ways to get back involved and reach out to them, pull them into these national initiatives, get together, actually, get some things to happen that support our collegiate chapters, our alumni chapters, and that connection between them, and support the, all the great things that we've been talking about, with Engineering Futures, the district program, helping our students, members.
Thank you, Scott. Ming.
Yeah, I feel that one of our best assets for Tau Beta Pi and who we really are, it's the members. It's the talent that we have, the passion, the character of all of the people here. And so it's something where that's a huge highlight of who we represent. And so being able to make sure that we have the full resources that can be made available to ensure that everybody's able to connect with each other through networking, through perhaps improved contacts databases, et cetera, so that collegiate folks, alums, those who are spread across the country are able to work together effectively and efficiently, just like how in some of these examples that we've heard already, where being able to just band together, pull together to do some really powerful things all together. So there's a huge resource in who we are, what we represent, and be able to fully tap and leverage that talent. That's where I think we need to go. Thank you.
Thanks, Ming. And Tom. Tom, you're still muted.
Yeah, I'm muted. Sorry, mouse is in the wrong place. Well, 4 for 4. I think our members are the greatest strengths of the organization, or the talents that come with the people that join this organization are the strengths that we need to unleash on the problems that we face as an organization, and honestly, to show the leadership to solve problems for the world. The greatest opportunity I think that we have really is, over 60% of the people that can be part of our organization aren't interested. We somehow are missing a huge number of people who could be joining our organization, and we could get yet even more talented minds into our organization. So there's an opportunity there to bring more people along into our journey, to bring them along into our leadership training, to bring them along into networking with our alumni, and kind of bringing all those things together. I mean, all these things are possible, and I think that they do bring value to members. I think we just need to find ways to really communicate that, and what we can bring to people, and bring more people into our organization.
Great, thank you. So our next question kind of dovetails a little bit into involving people within Tau Beta Pi. So clearly we're having unvention, as a number of the candidates mentioned, and we're not meeting in person. And so the COVID pandemic has led us into this sort of forced transition into utilizing digital communications a lot more. And we found kind of the silver lining a bit is that events like Unvention have become new opportunities to engage a larger audience that may not have been engaged before. And I want to know what your feelings are about this, and how you would lead Tau Beta Pi through this transition, both now during the pandemic and after the pandemic is over. And so we'll get back to our initial order there, and we'll start with Scott.
So I've been telling my team at work that, and my team is all working remotely now at my company, that it's not going to be a matter of weeks or months, but perhaps even a whole year, at least for us, that we're going to be working in a remote work environment. And yet there will be a day when we get to go back into the office, and it'll be a transition. And it may not be exactly like it was before. There might be some other hybrid situation where we're sort of half in, half out. So there's going to be another adjustment that comes with that, where we're sort of hybrid, online and in place. And I think it's a matter of change management. And we've done a lot of work to try and mitigate that. And I want to bring some of that know-how into how we work with our chapters, our members, our student chapters, our alumni chapters, everybody, about how to utilize these tools that we've now been thrust into getting used to help make that connection. Maybe not everything has to be in person as it might have been before. I think that's a great opportunity because now there's a much easier way to involve alumni that might not have been available before because of proximity problems. And also it might be an easier way to, not necessarily for every single meeting, but some of the meetings to make that be more of an online environment to make it easier for people to participate. And so one of the things I'm wanting to promote, should I be reelected, is to make sure that we are setting up and promoting the use of these tools and how to use these tools effectively. Make it part of our toolbox with respect to recruiting, with helping lead chapters, help connect different alumni with student chapters, staying connected as alumni.
Great, thank you, Scott. Ming.
Yeah, I think first off, just a really big shout out and thank you to everyone who's been involved in making this convention possible. That being able to make that really quick pivot from a live in-person event to something that is completely virtual. And so I know like Mena, Neil, and so many others have been working behind the scenes tirelessly to make this possible. And so I think, again, that speaks to the members that we have and how powerful that is. And so, yeah, I feel that being able to have that flexibility to pivot quickly, these are all really important hallmarks whenever these large systematic changes happen. And importantly, yeah, seeing the silver lining in things. And so, for example, having the opportunities where that we otherwise would not have for people to, for example, attend the convention that we normally would not be able to due to travel restrictions, or simply just due to because typically it's just the leadership from the collegiate chapters who would be going to the convention, but now it's open to everybody. Having alumni participate in this virtual meeting that typically is more limited to just voting delegates of alumni chapters. And so we've been put into a position where we can now appreciate some of these virtual tools. And yeah, I feel that being able to leverage the tools as best as possible so that we're able to include more people that otherwise would not be able to easily participate will be very important moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Ming. Tom.
Yeah, I am a big believer in retrospectives and taking a look at what we were able to do well and what we struggled with as we kind of look at the experience we've just had, because like's been talked about, I believe this is going to be part of our future in the short term, certainly. And I think it's an opportunity to look at new ways of delivering what it is we do to students, to bring the best ideas and the best presentation of our organization to more people. So I would basically make sure that, in terms of leading the process for that, is making sure that we set aside time to kind of look back at how did this work, what worked well, what didn't, make sure we have both participants and leaders, and then making sure that it's looking at it in terms of what are we trying to achieve, and how does it serve that purpose. That is going to be what we would pull out of it. And then we just take what we learn out of that and we apply those things at chapter level, at the national level. I mean, I think that the idea of having more and more people involved in convention and unvention is a really important thing. And I think that the content and the conversation that we generate is exciting when we talk about, what we're trying to do with the organization. That is how I would think we would bring this in. So we bring more people into the conversation and participating with us.
Thanks, Tom. And Joan.
And I think there's an expression, the beauty of the and I think that's where we are, because our world has changed and we're going to need to figure out how to do both. There's great value in a face-to-face convention, and we need to be able to offer opportunities for more people to engage in that conversation and be a part of convention, to be a part of what's going on in Tau Beta Pi. So how do we figure out how to do both effectively? The beauty of the and. Someday we'll be able to have face-to-face conventions, and within that, we should leverage technology. We have so much technology in the world that we are not leveraging. How do we leverage that to enable people to virtually participate as well? We can have live face-to-face and virtual participation moving forward. And I think that's one of the things that that is the opportunity that we can choose to grasp and run with and move forward, or we can let it pass us by. So I agree with everyone on the candidate list here. Everyone said a piece of it. Let's leverage technology. Let's figure out how to engage more people. Let's figure out how to have the opportunity for the face-to-face and that engagement of a broader audience moving forward.
Hey, thank you, Joan. So this kind of almost follows a little bit on this idea of engagement. Convention has been really our spotlight event where we have interaction with our students and where the students really get the chance to put forward their ideas and leading the organization. And we certainly understand how the experience of the students, enriches our participation as alumni, as leaders within the organization. And they bring that change to Tau Beta Pi. And so how can we encourage more interaction beyond just the convention and use that to raise the voices of the students in Tau Beta Pi? And we'll start this time with Ming.
Yeah, I feel that very similarly to some of the questions before about needing to be able to form a better bridge. And these bridges go between the collegiate chapters, with the alumni chapters, with headquarters, folks in national, to let's say the advisors for the collegiate chapters, the faculty members. And so we need to look at it from a very large perspective, as in we're a Tau Beta Pi family, and we're just in different regions in the country and in different chapters, whether that's in college or that's in the alums. And so having the networking that makes it possible to be able to have those communications easily. And so I think with this convention, it gives us a first taste of how this can actually be possible, thanks to a lot of the technology and, of course, a lot of the hard work and ideas and passion behind the members. And so, again, bringing together folks across the nation who are in various roles and positions for Tau Beta Pi. That's how we're going to be able to advance together as a Tau Beta Pi family. Thanks.
Hey, thanks, Ming. Tom.
Yeah, I think that it does present a great opportunity to bring students into the conversations that we have throughout the year. I think that there's things we do, projects we pursue, initiatives we need to try and further that we could bring the student voice, the alumni voice, all the perspectives, advisors into the conversation and kind of work on that without having to bring everybody together. My own personal professional experience means that, we work globally. We work with people and develop products that, take people all over the world to bring together to deliver on what it is we do. It's very similar. I'm bringing everybody's different perspective into the conversation, but having a purpose. We're there to do a particular thing, and having people interested in serving that purpose and solving that problem is something I think is a great opportunity to make it not just an October weekend, but have it be multiple times a year as we kind of look at doing the initiatives that we're trying to further. I think it's a great opportunity for that using this technology.
Thanks, Tom. Joan.
I agree with Tom. How can we make this more of a year-round thing? But there's a balance. So the real answer is somewhere in the middle. So right now we have district meetings, we have chapter meetings, we have an annual convention. Our students are busy, but we've also got a perfect example of our committees for the unvention. We've got groups of students on committee that have been meeting weekly to come together to put forward recommendations on how to solve challenges that we're currently facing. And maybe there's an opportunity there to do something with student committees throughout the year, meet more than once a year. Is it twice a year? Is it once a quarter? You know, what's the real answer? I'm not sure, but it's probably more than once a year. And we can get so much more accomplished by leveraging our students. They want to be engaged. They want to participate. They want to be a part of things. We can partner them with alumni in industry, get some of that mentoring and coaching going between those organizations and make it a year-round thing so that we're giving our students some time to practice those leadership skills more than just a weekend in October and more than just during their chapter meetings. Get that interaction between universities across the United States and throughout the world. Tom's right, we're in a global world. And so how do we leverage technology and to make this more of a global, certainly a national honor society rather than just a chapter in a district?
Thank you, Joan. And Scott.
So, in earlier comments, I mentioned, I was very interested in building out initiatives through task forces or committees, whatever you want to call them. I think that those should be open to and to student members as not just alumni members. In other words, that we would, if we've identified something that's important on the national level, to bring together people from all over the organization. That would include our collegiate chapter members. And it's another opportunity for students to both gain a leadership experience, to work on a national initiative, but also they get to interact with alumni that they wouldn't necessarily be, have another opportunity to interact with. There is also a student advisory board that already exists and it's active, and it involves students that want to stay, involved and talk about issues related to from the student perspective. And I think that board should be invited to participate more in what the executive council is doing, either as a report out or have perhaps even a designated member that can come and be, a delegate to the meetings. And I think that would also give them more exposure to some of the strategic initiatives and broader initiatives that are happening at the organization. I think that it all goes back in my mind to the beauty of this organization, which is we have so much potential, and we have the potential to provide these opportunities for building the professional development, leadership development of our student members. And if we can create more of those opportunities, I think we'll all be better for it.
Thank you, Scott. So next question, as I kind of introduced, what is the role of the executive council? We talk about, and to paraphrase one of my co-district directors, Russ Wormuth, Tau Beta Pi is an upside down organization. It's a student-led organization. That's been a theme that we've heard a number of the questions and a number of the answers. And so the role of the executive council is really to act for the organization when the convention is not in session. And I want you to briefly talk about what you view that, and your understanding of that relationship between the student leadership and the executive council leadership, and what your strategy would be to preserve that relationship and to enhance it. And so we'll start with Tom this time.
Well, as I understand the question, bringing student leadership voice into the executive council you know, it traditionally has been, you know, things coming out of convention, but I think the opportunity is there, and Scott just touched on it, to, you know, hear from student groups as part of, you know, initiatives and projects and things that we're trying to do. You know, what is the perspective there? You know, as it relates to things that they're, the things that are going to affect them. Involving them in the conversation and in the thought process around, well, what might we do about something, you know, to broaden the conversation, to make sure we got all the stakeholders involved in conversation and bringing their ideas into it. And, you know, the Executive Council has a role that is very formal within the organization in terms of, you know, there's the legal structure that we have and how we have to execute on that. So there's a strong responsibility that they have, but it doesn't mean we can't take the voice from other places in the organization to bring that into the conversation and the deliberations at Executive Council.
Alrighty, thanks, Tom. Joan.
I think we've sort of been talking about a lot of this, and I agree with Tom. How do you bring all those voices into the Executive Council? How do you make our students a greater part of the discussion? We've got the technology. Let's leverage it. Let's make it a continuation, not just an event. How do we make this so that there's certain things that we can do virtually through committees and task force and report outs, and if it needs to get voted on, we can do it by ballot or whatever needs to happen according to the requirements that we have legally. And there are other things that we might want to really hold for convention when people can all be together and discuss things face to face. It might be a better conversation if it can be face to face rather than virtual. So it's, again, how do you figure out how to do both? How do you engage more of our alumni, engage more of our students in this conversation throughout the year, make them part of these discussions, and as we get recommendations, pull together the organization in the appropriate manner so that it can be voted on and move forward and implemented, and then the Executive Council takes it from there to drive the implementation and leverage all the organizations like the chapters, the presidents, the student advisory boards, committees, task force, and let's keep it going throughout the year, not just an annual event.
Thanks, Joan. Scott.
And I think to build off of, you know, the comments that folks have shared, you know, I certainly agree that we want to build out opportunities for students to be involved, and, you know, we've talked about some of the different ideas that could lead to that. But I also want to point out, you know, there is a need within this organization to have those that can handle things that emerge on the logistics front in terms of running the day-to-day organization. And so I don't think it's, you know, I think it's almost a false argument to say that students have to be involved in every decision that's made or not. I think it's actually more about being transparent. We want to invite students to be able to participate at the levels that they want to participate and seek their input on these things. Yes, there's an Executive Council to help make strategic direction for the organization in the long term. And that is a position that we have, you know, we vote in members, as we're talking about now, to take on that role. And we can certainly involve students and alumni in that conversation. I think as long as they're able to be, you know, their voice be heard and be included, that's a success. That's a behavior we want to model, where, you know, that we encourage the leadership potential, you know, the taking of initiative within our student members, you know, that we give them that opportunity. If they want to step up and provide some input, that we make sure those channels remain open, and they have, it's understood to them how they can contribute that information to the organization as a whole.
Alrighty, thanks, Scott. And Ming.
Yeah, I feel that a very important aspect is to have regular and routine communication. And this will go across the board, where having folks in the collegiate chapters connecting with the alumni chapters, those groups also connecting with national, and also even between alumni chapters and collegiate chapters, where again, I feel that there's the need to to improve on the connection that we have with the faculty advisors in the collegiate chapters. Being able to really connect with those who are, quote unquote, on boots on the ground. These are the folks who are ensuring that the quality of engineering education is being brought to the students. They're the ones who are overseeing what's happening at the collegiate chapters, essentially our membership starting base. And so being able to have regular and routine communication throughout the year to make sure that we are all aligned, that we have certain goals that we want to embark on, that becomes very, very important. And also connecting various chapters together across the states, across the country. So even, for example, once students graduate from college and they go to another state for work or for graduate school, how can they be easily connected with an alumni chapter? How can they be replugged into a local collegiate chapter to become mentors, for example, or even as advisors for those collegiate chapters, and all together working with national as a whole. So having constant, frequent communication through all levels of Tau Beta Pi, especially with the faculty advisors, I feel is a very important component.
Alrighty, thank you, Ming. So the next question, you're running for executive council, and that would be a 3-year term on the council. And what would your, I guess, 3-year goal be for the association? And so we'll start this time with Joan.
My 3-year goal would be really around the things that we've been talking about. It's how do we create a mechanism to make helping our students gain more leadership and participate in running this organization more than just an annual event. So how do we take what we've learned throughout this last year, leverage that technology, and make it a continuation of what needs to be happening from a leadership perspective for this organization throughout the year. A second goal of mine would be how do we leverage our alumni into becoming more mentors, coaches for our students. A lot of our students, they don't recognize that they even need mentors or coaches entering their careers. And it's so important that I can't even begin to stress how important it is for them to get mentors and coaches throughout their entire life and to change them out as they move forward throughout their careers. So figuring out how to bring a little more of a mentoring program into the organization would be another goal of mine. And a third goal would be, how can we take the great things that we're currently doing and provide the support that we need to provide to our program directors and our district directors and help them do the work that they need to do more efficiently, more effectively, more easily, so that they can help our students. Those would be my 3 goals.
Great, thanks, Joan. Scott.
So if I were reelected to the council, I would leverage on the experience I've had with my past 3 years in the council, working on our development committee, which looks after issues around fundraising, and serving as treasurer, to set a plan that gets us on track to strengthen our finances and double our annual giving donations by 2030. So setting out a plan that gets us there. And I think we can, by setting the plan, we can start working toward that rather than just hoping that, the market will get better, or hoping that we'll find more donors. But we actually need a plan around that. I also think we need to leverage what we've seen with the invention has been quite a success in my view. Thanks to the effort of the many volunteers that stepped up and put in a lot of great effort into bringing this together. We can think of how to replicate that in terms of all of the initiatives we have in mind. But really, it could be done if we assembled our alumni together in groups that were willing to meet, talk about the issue, come up with a near-term solution, and actually get it implemented through task forces and committees. We could involve so many more alumni than we do today if we set our minds to it. And I want to, in the next 3 years, do exactly that, greatly expand the amount of alumni involvement in these national initiatives. And that can also include the collegiate chapters as well. If the students want to be involved in those, they certainly can. And finally, I think we need to, as I mentioned before, leverage the tools that we've all been getting used to using now because of the pandemic, but really those things that allow us to connect better virtually. And, how do we integrate that with, resuming to being able to meet in person at some point? That will happen in the next 3 years. How do we leverage all of those techniques that we've picked up on and tools and use that to have a better outreach between collegiate chapters, alumni chapters, and alumni with other alumni, and even reaching out to prospective members? Those are my 3 goals for the next 3 years.
Great, thank you, Scott. Ming.
Yeah, as an executive counselor, I'd like to see really two main areas where we can grow. And the first is having that better bridge with the chapters, the districts at the national level, those in the collegiate chapters and also the alumni chapters, providing the tools and the mechanisms such that these sort of interactions can happen. And thereby creating opportunities, creating more of a Tau Beta Pi family feel, that it's not just you start at college and then things sort of fizzle out, but rather it comes full circle, where once you finish in college and you become an alum down the road, it'd be wonderful to see that alumni member help out in the collegiate chapter, help out in the districts, and help out in at the national organizational level. And so it all feeds into itself in creating the tools necessary to enable that. That's one part. The other is, as we've seen in the news, especially of late in the recent months, what is our role for Tau Beta Pi to look at some of these very challenging societal questions about diversity, inclusion. We are all high achievers in our engineering fields, no doubt. That's why we're here. And at the same time, we're also called to have exemplary character. And so what are some of the things that we can do to really showcase that exemplary character, to really examine some of these larger societal issues? And as Tau Beta Pi, what are some of the things that we can do to help guide society as a whole in navigating these very challenging and difficult questions? And I think together we can really make an impact to society as a large. Thank you.
Thanks, Ming. Tom.
Over a 3-year term, turns out that's probably not a lot of time, but I think there's some things to get started on. The delivery of value to members. I think that, the idea that so many people don't find us valuable to them is something that we should take a closer look at, because for those that are part of our organization, we do find value in it. If I look around, the people that, are participating in it, they are able to get valuable skills that we deliver. Through Engineering Futures, through the district program, and through our ability to work with alumni. So I would want to look at that. I think the other part that, and it's tied to that, is looking at the alumni roles, expanding the roles that alumni can fill by participating in activities and projects and initiatives for the organization, where it's beyond the Engineering Futures Facilitator and District Director roles, but other roles that we can help bring them into the conversation. And part of that is also, bolstering the alumni chapters, so that the chapters themselves, kind of get the benefit of each other's successes. And, some of that's really already been going on. So I think that just needs to be continued. And I think that some focus on on the financial part of the organization is worth some investigation, and would be some attention should be paid toward that, like along the lines of what Scott's talking about, would be something that would should generate some conversation. So those would be some areas I'd want to be interested in following up on.
Thanks, Tom. So kind of following up on that, you all were talking about your goals as potential members of the council. Previously, when I was on the council, we elected a 5-member team, and that team ran as a slate. And now we have kind of a very different structure in that we're electing 3 people who are running as individuals to serve on the council. And so I want you to, how you obviously have your goals, what you would like to see Tau Beta Pi do. How would you work to kind of make sure that you incorporate those and come together as an agreement on the council as to what the goals of the council should be, kind of taking into account, the goals you've heard today? Obviously, there are 6 other people remaining on the council, and, seeing that this is a council made up of 9 individuals, but has to have some cohesive vision to move forward. So what would your thoughts be on, melding all these individual goals into something that the council can actually accomplish over the next 1 to 3 years? And we'll start this time with Scott.
So my approach and work with the council has been that, it helps both to listen, but also to speak up. And so the approach that I would take to get these initiatives to come to be, and mind you, these are initiatives that I've put together because I felt it did fit along with where the council has been interested, is, there is a strategic plan that has been agreed upon by the council. That's one area where you can encourage and talk to members of the council and encourage including certain, objectives within that strategic plan. But I actually see that there's a lot of opportunity for any council member that's willing to take the initiative to actually propose a task force or committee. If they're willing to help stand it up, it makes it a lot easier to say, I'm interested in this and I'm willing to run it, then for the council to accept that. And I think that that's where there's so much sort of untapped potential within an organization, in that if the council decides to set up a committee, but is willing to include alumni that are interested from, anywhere in the membership, from people that want to join, I think that it would be possible to bring in quite a bit of support. And so with that in mind, I think that the objectives that I put out as my goals would be very much in line with what the council is already looking for, supporting, stronger fundraising, supporting, better tools for our members or chapters, and having more participation from our alumni. I think all of those things do well align with what the council wants to have and seeks to improve the organization as a whole.
Thanks, Scott. Ming.
Yeah, I think the new way that it has been set up for the composition of the executive council, it makes it very interesting in how it allows for fresh ideas essentially to come in every year by 3 new people. And so I feel that having, again, importantly, conversations, communication, listening and hearing amongst the council members is going to be super important. And I think also, again, having that bridging to the large portion of the membership at large, right? The collegiate members, the faculty members, having a really close pulse on that and making sure that it gets translated and connected with the ideas that are brought to the executive council becomes super important. Many of the students that I work with at Yale, for example, very much at the forefront of their minds is what about these issues about diversity? What about these issues of inequality, that we want to have equality? How do we deal with that, especially from an honor society? And so having a very close tap, very close pulse to what these students are asking is going to be very important to feed into the larger overall strategic goals, I feel, for the Executive Council. And so having new ideas through this new mechanism, I think it's great. And being able to communicate that and having conversations about it becomes, I think, an essential ingredient to make sure that our organization as a whole is able to move forward positively and make some really great change for us and also for our society and country as a whole. Thanks.
Thanks, Ming. Tom.
So I think that the Executive Council, kind of continues on with some conversations that they've been having over time, and they've had the opportunity to think about those things, and they've formed initiatives around those things. Obviously, you start out listening to what's going on, and then you bring your own experience to that conversation, your own perspective, both professional and your Tau Beta Pi experience to that conversation to kind of make sure that that you're bringing your own voice to the conversation. And then I think the other thing is around the initiatives that you want to try and drive. I'm not so naive to think that the idea that one person comes on and wants to go in a direction that's 90 degrees different or even 45 degrees different is going to take effect in a short period of time. But I think you've got to use your own personal influence, listen, and try and move things in a direction where you think they're beneficial. So joining the team and kind of working to further the team's initiatives that they're trying to do, but also bringing your own ideas in. And I think Scott hits it right on the head. If you put your own personal energy behind it and organize sub teams to work on whatever it is that you want to work on, then you're more likely to get that done than if you just talk about it. And so I think that would be a little bit about my thinking about how to join a team and then bring my own background and the voices and the constituencies that I've been tied to in Tau Beta Pi into the conversations.
Hey, thanks, Tom. And Joan.
For me, there's great value in diversity, and that is where I think the benefit of having individuals rather than a slate is you really encourage that diversity of thought. The challenge then becomes in how do you harness that diversity of thought and bring it into something cohesive enough to move the organization forward. And for me, the process that I've used successfully for many years in industry is what, I don't know what the process Tau Beta Pi Executive Council uses, but that would be a process that I would advocate. You start with the strategic plan, you start with the long range goals. They need to be 3 to 5 years out. And then you start breaking it down. It's program management 101. And you break it down into what are the 1 to 3 things we want to get done in the next year. And then how do we break it down into the projects that need to happen? Who's going to lead the projects? When are they going to report out? When are we going to be finished? What are our, you break it into those annual goals, the quarterly goals, the monthly goals, and you just keep breaking it down to make sure that you move forward and you achieve what you as an organization want to achieve within the time frame you set out. And it all links back into the strategic plan and those 3 to 5 year goals. And it's all about goal deployment and annual goal deployment, and then making sure that each of those goals get the proper level of leadership to drive them forward. So that would be my answer into how do you take a diverse executive council and harness all of that diversity of thought into moving the organization forward. It's by taking them through that process. And it is a process that needs to be gone through on a continual basis, and the strategic plans need to be revisited. They need to be upgraded, revised. It's a living document, a living process that we need to continually go through to keep us all on the same page and move forward.
Thank you, Joan. So another question, and this was one that was had been posted a bit on Whova. I'm not going to read through the entire set of statistics, but one concerning statistic that we look at is that, you know, our number of new members that we've been initiating each year is certainly stable or slightly decreasing. And it's certainly decreased from what it was in the past. And one of the large reasons why people don't join is what's considered lack of interest. And that may be a mixture of actual lack of interest in Tau Beta Pi or just not aware of Tau Beta Pi. And that number has been hovering somewhere in the 60s or higher in terms of percentages. And so what do you think, you know, I guess maybe I assume most of you would agree that this is probably a problem for the association. And what do you think we could do as an association to address that lack of interest that many of our eligible candidates have within the organization? And this time we'll start with Ming.
Yeah, I feel that that lack of interest, whether it's real or perceived, it's an issue, right? And so being able to show to the collegiate members, and again to the faculty advisors, that what is Tau Beta Pi about, and to make it worthwhile for them to be a part of it. And so I can think of one example where, so at Yale, the chapter was installed in 1923. And it took 96 years for us to get a bent monument on campus. And it was something that took an idea from one of the students. And she and I, we drove this process where we were able to obtain the full support from the School of Engineering, the dean from the engineering school, and we had a monument installed in the spring of last year, after 96 years of having a chapter, right, to think about that. And so we're very proud that we were able to do that, to showcase Tau Beta Pi. And now the monument, it's installed in one of the main engineering buildings for all the students to see as they come into to class, well, I guess virtually now, every morning. And also at the same time, it's a part of the campus university tours. And so whether you're a prospective student or just a student who's interested, you walk by campus and you see it and they ask, what is this? And so from a top-down approach, yeah, giving opportunities that can really highlight the value of Tau Beta Pi. What does it bring to them? What does it stand for? Communicating that effectively. And again, being very well connected with the schools themselves, so that together we can be all on the same page, advancing towards the same goals. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Ming. Tom.
Well, I think the numbers that you bring up should be a siren call. You know, it's concerning that there's the lack of interest. I think when you dig into it, and you got to understand a little bit about how those numbers come to be, and a lot of times it's just they didn't answer. You send them an email, they just didn't answer, right? And that gets classed as lack of interest. Well, there's reasons for that. And I think a lot of them, you know, we need to be very much more effective at communicating what it is that we deliver that's valuable to them. We got to recognize these are busy people with busy lives. And if you don't have something that they benefit from, then they're not going to spend their time with you, right? Just as simple as that. Well, what is it that they value? Well, we do know some things. We know that they appreciate the idea that somebody's going to help them get a job, that there's a professional network associated with this organization. If those are things that they value, then we need to figure out how to make sure we're delivering that at every campus, at every chapter, and then we communicate about how we do that, right? And we take things like these alumni initiatives and we say, how do we build on that? If that was the one thing, what are those things? That's what I've been talking about, trying to get at. What do they value, right? We know that may be one of the things that they value. And the other thing, it really is around communicating it. It's around being very effective at communicating that. And you can't just communicate to them on the first day of their junior year when they just show up on the list. We have to be communicating to people a little bit earlier in their college careers because we're kind of invisible in a lot of places. And where we're successful, I think there's a little bit more visibility. And, you know, to the degree that we can do more to help chapters communicate to people earlier in the stage of their college career so that we're known. They know what we are and what we're about. And even if that is just generally, like as a national organization, what we are, and it's not requiring the chapters to do as much, that would be helpful to them because we're already asking busy people to do the role of bringing members into it. We need to kind of scaffold for them maybe a little bit more how to communicate. What are the tools to communicate and bring those things to life for them.
Ready. Thanks, Tom. Joan.
This is one of those timeless discussion topics. I think it was a topic of discussion back in 1986 when I was chapter president. So it's been something that we've been talking about for as long as I've been involved in Tau Beta Pi, and I'm guessing it's probably been one that's been discussed for many, many years, even before that. My knowledge, of course, is a bit dated on what students think and feel, but our student advisory board, they might be a great resource to help us understand and maybe even chair a program or a committee around how can we as an organization help improve our acceptance rates for membership. And to me, that would be a place to start, is to help them help us in figuring out what are the right pieces we need to put in place. And because this has always been such an annual topic, do we need to put some leadership on it so that it becomes a program or a committee or a task force or something special to drive it if it is truly a goal of this organization to increase membership? And Scott mentioned it before, the annual giving, that needs to increase so that we can do more, and that increases with membership. So we need to make sure we keep our membership strong so that we as an organization can continue to be effective and to help students and in engineering as a profession in general. And to do that, we need to tackle this question that's been out there forever and just keep chipping away at it, but maybe putting some extra focus on it, making it a goal. Like Scott was talking about a goal in giving, maybe we have a goal in membership. Put the goal out there, put the leadership on it, drive the focus, and see what we can do to make a difference.
Thanks, Joan. And Scott.
And historically, we've set up our meetings, our in-person meetings around the district program to help with the training of officers to tackle this problem, because it is, as Joan rightly mentioned, it's a perennial issue. It's something that really has been on our minds for a long time and will continue. I think it's just something we always will be needing to keep addressing and refreshing. I think that though the one of the silver linings of the pandemic is we've now got no more tools at our disposal around how we communicate and connect. And I think that's not just a matter of how we connect and communicate with prospective members, but also how the organization connects internally, both headquarters to students, but also the sharing of ideas. There's no reason to have all of the helpful discussion that happens in these ICE sessions at Unvention or convention or at district meetings to be limited to just those events. We need to set up some structure around that sharing of information across chapters to help with that training of officers. So I think it all comes down to the officer transition. Every chapter has a high turnover rate from officers that are in charge. That's just the nature of how our organization works. And so we need to build out some additional tools and some additional support and perhaps even training that the organization, by soliciting the input from Student Advisory Board and students and our alumni, how do we get that in the hands of our new officers and new members so that they on their own campuses can come up to speed as quickly as possible and maybe even come up with some new ideas of their own to try. because at the end of the day, it is going to come down to the individual leaders at the individual chapters that have to put this into effect. And it's not going to be headquarters driving it, alone and just printing a lot of material or creating a lot of online material. It's how do you get the students up to speed and positioned and really motivated to deliver on this.
Alrighty, thank you, Scott. So I see it's just about 4:30 Eastern. I certainly want to thank everybody for this very, very productive hour and a half Q&A and discussion. And there is one more Q&A session that is coming up. So I would certainly encourage you to attend that and to feel free to ask any questions via email or through the Whova app. In advance. I figure what might be a good way to kind of wrap this up is we'll go in the reverse order of how we started, but at the beginning we gave everybody a minute or two to kind of introduce themselves, but I figure at the end, maybe give everybody again another minute or two just to, is there anything they wanted to add, a kind of a closing statement as we wrap this up. And so we'll go in reverse order from how we started. So Joan, Tom, Ming, and then Scott. So just kind of a minute or two to make a closing statement and flesh on anything that you thought about during this last hour and a half of Q&A.
So to wrap things up, I think the themes have been fairly consistent in that I think all of us are saying that we need to really take the opportunity that we have got in front of us today and make leveraging technology a big part of how we move Tau Beta Pi forward in the future. How do we drive our engagement and our leadership development for our students from an annual event into a continuous event throughout the year? How do we engage our alumni in that process? And how do we engage our student advisory board in that process as well, so that we're leveraging all of our resources to drive the organization forward in a very unified and efficient manner and take us where we need to go and want to go in the future. I think those were the main themes that were coming out through this questioning. And those are all things that I am completely behind and would love to be part of the executive council and help drive those things forward. And it all goes back to that strategic plan, the goal deployment, putting the right leadership in place, and making sure that process is in place as well, so that that diversity that you get through the executive council, the student advisory board, the program directors, the committee chairs, and everything else is all pulled together in one cohesive plan to move the organization forward. That would be my thoughts from today. Thank you, JP.
Thanks, Joan. We'll go again in reverse order. So Tom, you're next.
Yeah, I think that number one, there's a great group of people here that you have to choose from. I mean, everybody brings a great perspective. You heard a lot of great thoughts on all these topics. The organization is well served by bringing any of us into the team. My thought is really around. We do have opportunities here to kind of build on the learnings that we've had here in the past year. Technology can be our friend. It is something that we need to continue to focus on how to apply it best and to follow through on delivering solutions that help and take the routines out of things and make it really useful. Don't have it be helpful and not a hindrance, really, is what I'm saying. The organization can benefit from our alumni members a lot more than I think that it has. I think we have opportunities there to tap into the great experience that we have in this organization, to keep people connected to the organization. Because I think that by keeping people bonded to the organization is going to help with the the bond, basically, you know, kind of have it extend beyond when it is you're a student member. I don't know, you know, so many times we talk to people and they say, oh yeah, I was a member of that. Well, you still are. But we have to make that, bring that to life, right? And I think if we can find ways to do that better, I think some of the other problems will find solutions, right? There'll be more opportunities for people to come participate. There could be more opportunities to give. There could be more opportunities to benefit students, which, you know, in a lot of sense, we do want to make sure that we're delivering to students, you know, what they need to kind of get them started, you know, kind of leaving a legacy and looking back and saying, let's give them a start and get them going in their careers, because, you know, we're taking a long view on this thing. We need to kind of make sure that we have continued progress. So.
Thank you, Tom. Ming.
Yeah, thanks so much, JP, and for so many others who have helped to put this together. So again, huge shout out to everyone who behind the scenes had made this transition possible, and to have this meeting virtually, and to do it so well in such a short amount of time. And so, yeah, I feel that as an executive counselor, I would really push for having the tools and the resources available to further enhance upon the great passion and talent that we have within this Tau Beta Pi family. Being able to better connect with the chapters, the collegiate chapters, the alumni chapters, faculty advisors, and at the national level as well, so that we are much better integrated together and we're able to much more effectively share ideas, communicate, have discussions, and to, yeah, look into some challenging societal questions that are before us, where I feel that as members of this honor society, as a leading organization in this country, that we have a very powerful voice in our field and to our peers, because they look to us to be the leaders in engineering, and we have that responsibility as well. And so, yeah, I'm really excited and passionate about some of the great things that we can be doing together. And so, yeah, thanks again, and looking forward to our next conversation.
Thank you, Ming and Scott.
Well, thank you all for coming today and participating in this Q&A with your questions and your time. We really appreciate your involvement. It's exciting to see so many people actually interested in the EC elections. I hope to get your vote just as a way of showing that you support my ability to come in, leveraging the experience that I've had on the past 3 years with the council, being involved with various committees and standing up the kinds of initiatives that I've been talking about. One of those examples was the website redesign that we did in 2018. Also been involved in helping bring in more people for our trust advisory committee, doing a search for participants for that, helping stand up the role of a annual giving officer, which has been now rolled into the director of development role. And I hope to hit the ground running if reelected and be able to start more initiatives that involve more of our alumni, help set our plan for fundraising doubling by 2030, and bringing in more of the tools and technologies and techniques that we've been standing up this year, make those established for the future and integrated into what we do in the organization in support of our collegiate and alumni members. Thank you very much.
Alrighty, thanks everyone. And again, echo my thanks for our 4 candidates for taking the time out on their Sunday afternoon to participate in the Q&A here. And thanks to everyone who asked questions. I certainly think this was a very, very good discussion. As has been mentioned, the next Executive Council Q&A is on Wednesday, the 4th, and that is from 7 to 8 p.m. And so it certainly would welcome you all to join that as well.